Hello there, and welcome back to the railway. In this video I shall show you the progress I've made with weathering some Dapol engaged teak coaches. So the pictures you're seeing now is how they looked before, and the picture you'll see now is one of the teak coaches on the Severn Valley Railway. So that is the aim, to try and get the coaches to look similar as I can to those ones. So first things first, I removed the bogies at the bottom of the coach. Then I removed the wheels out of the bogies, and then I gradually started to paint a white rim round. This took 3 separate layers just to make sure it was applied the way I wanted it, and then it gradually stood out a lot more. So once that was done, I then inserted the wheels back into the bogies, and then put the bogies back on this coach just to see how it looked and if I was happy with it. And as you can see from these pictures here, it makes a huge difference just having the wheels painted. It stands out a lot more and it does look a lot better. The next part of the renovation process, you could call it, was to take the coach apart, as you can see here, where I took out the glazing so that when I was painting the sides of the coach, as you can see here, this is the first coat that I've put on. But I just wanted to make sure the glazing was out of the coach when I did the painting, so it didn't get any paint on the plastic windows. But yeah, so here you can see this is the first coach I did. This is in its completed phase compared with the other ones. In this picture here, you'll see that I've now then got the production line almost of all the bogies that have been removed, and then here you have all the bogies that have been painted, had the wheels painted, so they were then all ready then for me to put on the coaches as and when I finished painting them. I looked all over the internet and on YouTube trying to find tutorials on how to open up these coaches, but I couldn't find any, so it was a little bit of trial and error. So the first thing that I did was to remove the wheel sets. So there's a little pin that I'm pointing out here. It's kind of a clip pin, so it's quite simple to put back in, but it's quite easy to get out, but it's more difficult to try and get back in. So it's just squeezing it in between your nails and then pulling it, just like that, and then it should pop out reasonably easily. Just like it will with this one here. So simply just try and get your nails grasped around the edge of this clip and just pull it out. The next part of the deconstruction process was to remove the wheels from the bogies. This was reasonably simple. It was a little bit tricky then trying to get them back in without damaging the paint that I'd put on, but it is just levering away the plastic area around where the pointy section of the end of the wheel goes, and the wheel sets just pop out really easily, just like you're seeing here. Then what I would then do was, after I had unclipped it, just then put the wheels on top so they didn't roll away, and then, as you see in here, go to the next one. So it's very simple just to then try and just open up a bit of a gap between. Oh, sorry for the lighting there, to get it a bit better, there we go. Just squeezing something in between the gap just to then open it up, and then just try and pop out the wheel sets just like that. So then, as you can see, that spike that was poking in, just trying to relieve that out and ease it out. And then do the same again with this one, just so you can see how it's going. Just like that, very simple. The next thing to do before I could start painting the coach down was to remove the glazing. But to do this, I needed to remove the roof section. On this one here, as you can see, I had it with all of them, there was a slight gap you could just about get your nail into, or maybe a very thin screwdriver, just as a little gap in between the roof and the side walls of the coach. Now I did this very carefully, making sure not to damage any of these clips, just so that then it would make it easy making sure it would go back in as it needed to. So it's just easing it out very gently, not trying to push it out all in one go and risk snapping the roof of the coach. So once that was done, I then needed to remove the glazing panels, as you can see there, that I just pointed out, which was a little bit more difficult than I thought with some other models, but with other ones it came out really easily. In order to get to the pins to remove the glazing panels, I first needed to remove the bottom section of the coach that you can see here. Now this was reasonably simple. There is a little clip here that I'm just pointing out. Try and zoom in, get a better view of it for you. So at the end of the coach there is a small clip just there, and all it needs to do was just ease it away from the edge, just then try and clip it, unclip it basically from the main coach. It was more difficult trying to get this on camera. Doing it when I wasn't trying to do it in front of a camera was really simple, but it was just trying to do it at the angle I was at was a bit difficult and took several attempts, as you can see. But in the end I got there, so it wasn't too much of a pain. Just watch out as well though, if you are doing this, watch out for damaging any of the pipe work on the ends of the coach. But as you can see there, once you've unclipped it, it then removes itself quite easily. It's the same then at the other end of the coach as well. So just simply get a small implement into the gap and then just ease it out. This would work with the pick that I'm using here, or with again a thin screwdriver would do the same sort of job. Now here, as you can see, I've now removed the bottom half of the coach, and it is attached to the coach body with wires, because these coaches have the ability to have a light bar in them. So just be careful when you're dealing with this that you don't damage the wires while you're removing or putting the coach back together. Now you can just see here I'm pointing out the clips that are holding in the glazing panels. These clips, all you needed to do with them was to just ease them away from the chassis, just how I had done with removing the bottom of the coach. And then once that was done, it was then quite simple to then pull the glazing out of the coach. I found it easier to do this once I had, as you can see here, just slightly pushed back the glazing as far as it would go, using a small flathead screwdriver, just to open up the gap in between the side of the coach and the glazing panel itself. So then it is just going into these clips underneath, trying to unclip it from the coach. It does take a few attempts sometimes, but if you persevere with it, you'll get there in the end. So here you can see, as I've now reached a moment of triumph where the glazing has finally been able to be released from the coach. This did take a lot longer than I thought it would originally, hence why I put that little bit of music in. But yeah, so excuse me. Once I'd then got that first end of the glazing out, it then made it easier to then get the rest of it out, and then just used the tool that you can see there on the screen just to then pull the glazing out a little bit further and remove it as such. So that's one panel down and one more to go, so just turn around the coach. Now this side was a bit more tricky to try and do because it has a lot more windows, and the way that they are made is so that the window panes actually slot into the coach. So it was a little bit tricky trying to make sure that I pushed it out enough, but then you've got to as you can see here, the glazing panel is wedged right up against the seats, so it was quite tricky trying to get it out. But as you can see here, this has now been released from its encasing, and I just place it onto to the side here, making sure that I have the glazing side down so I don't get any paint on them later on. So this is the finished result of the painting of the coaches. So I just grab a coach that hasn't been weathered yet so you can see the comparison. So the one above, this is the first one I did. This is I was using as a reference to make sure I had the right sort of shade that I was looking for. And this is an unweathered, unpainted version. So you can get a nice clear look of the difference there, and if I turn it over, you can see that there's a nice difference, and this one is now a much more realistic wood looking colour. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to reassemble this coach, and I'll show you how I do that, and then I shall start work on the next one. So as you can see, I've now got the windows back in and the roof back on, and I've also clipped the bottom back in, so all left to do now is attach the wheels of the bogies, and then it's ready to go on the layout. Just noticed this really nice detail while I was opening up one of these other coaches ready to paint. There's a difference between the first class and the third class carriages on the inside. Now, I might have noticed in the other coaches that I've done, they're both third class, and they have the different coloured seats as the first class ones and have the blue seats, which I thought was quite a nice detail, which I wouldn't have thought about before opening up the coach to have a look at, especially in Engage. Anyway, I'll get back to painting up this one with the brown wash that I'm using. I'm not sure if I've shown you the paint, it's this one here. It's a Crawford Black Burnt Sienna acrylic, and I'm just mixing that with water and applying it over the woodwork as a wash. Anyway, let's go on with painting. So as you can now see, all of the teak coaches have been weathered and painted just to how I like them. It does I'm really happy with how they've gone, and it makes a huge difference. Especially with the white rims on the wheels. If I just zoom in there, they stand out so much more. It makes such a big difference. But yeah, so I'll just go into a running session now of these going around the layout. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.